Hello again guys, and welcome back to another Big Al Devlin video here at the House of Devlin. And this particular video is not a blank piece of white paper as you may be expecting, but a genealogy, so to speak. It's a product of our playlist that we have on here called The North Gods, where I talk to you about the gods of Nordic paganism, but paganism as a whole. Also as an extension. And so the reason I thought I'd start to write out the genealogy of all the gods and which god is related to who, so on and so forth, is one, it's something we're going to have to do at one point in time or another. But secondly, the other main reason behind it is because I was to do a video today on Bor, the father of Odin, and I realised there's zero information on this particular god that I could particularly find to create a video of even 30 seconds length, and even less on Buri, almost his grandfather. And so I thought it's a way of including gods that you may not be able to create dedicated videos to, and so that's the purpose of this video. And so we'll start with the gods that we've just mentioned. So right at the top, okay, we'll have this, will get more Buri. Okay, now Buri, okay, is known as the creator of all things. He was the first of the Aesir tribes. That means he is made of pure ice. He was found by Ordhumbler and released from the ice by Ordhumbler over a 3-day process. First day of his hair was released. On the second day his head was released, and on the third day his body was fully released and he became aware and self-conscious. Now we know nothing about Buri other than what I've just described there. We have no idea who his wife was. We have no idea whether his wife was Aisha herself, whether she was a giantess, or whether Buri possessed the same capabilities that Ymir did. Ymir was the first of all the giants, and he was capable of asexual reproduction. He was a hermaphrodite, essentially. He could produce his own children without having a counterpart, so to speak. So there may be no mention of no wife simply because of this process. If anyone knows whether Buri had a wife or not, then please obviously speak up and teach us, because we're all on this particular channel to be taught. We then have Buri had a son called Bor. So he did do something. He did the dirty with someone or something. And produced Bor, who himself was again full Aesir. Okay, his genealogy was full Aesir. So whoever Buri had sex with was either an Aesir god, or it was that sort of hermaphrodite, sort of asexual reproduction that we talked about in reference to Ymir. However, Bor actually married across the tribes of the gods and married a giantess called Bestla. Excuse my writing. Bestla. Okay, and she was a giant. Okay, actually really hard to do this on camera because I'm trying to write with the right by looking for the camera, but it's not where the paper is. It's a bit like fishing, you know, the paper's out a little bit further than you expect. Anyway, these two got married and they did have children. They had 3 children, in fact, and you'll be very familiar with them, especially if you're aware of the genealogy story of Nordic paganism. But their children were Odin, Vili, okay, and Ve. Okay, Odin, Vili, and Ve. Okay, so each one of these, Odin included, were half giant. Okay, they were no longer of pure Aesir descent or blood. Now, what we're going to consider ourselves with is Odin here. Okay, I'm not going to consider Vili and Ve at this point in time. I'll consider them in more detail in another video if I have enough information to discuss them, because, as I say, a lot of these gods, a lot of these older gods, there's very little information on them, and these would have been the gods that, you know, anyone who knows anything about paganism existed during the Ice Age, so it could be 10, 20, 30, 40,000 years old, and these gods here probably would have been the gods that they worshipped alongside these, but these would have taken more prominence. And as the religion or as the faith developed, they would have obviously the faith developed in detail. We see a much more prominence of the lesser generation of gods such as Odin. Okay, now we're going to pay particular attention to Odin, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate that family tree there and create Odin's own personal family tree. Odin married Frigg, and I've discussed this in a previous video. Frigg was most likely Freya, okay, who was Vanir. She was another tribe of gods. If Freya was Frigg, and it's highly likely that she was, then basically Freya, then basically all the children after Odin would be 1/3 giant, 1/3 Aesir, and 1/3 Vanir. So they're becoming a real mix of bloodlines here. However, it's really, what I find strange is that Thor is often described as being 3/4 giant, and I have no idea why they call him 3/4 giant. I don't know if it's because people don't understand genealogy, like I'm doing here, family trees and stuff, or whether Frigg, for some reason, Freya, they see him as a giant. They saw her, or they believe that Freya, because she was not of the Aesir blood, was giant. No, she's not. She's Vanir. Okay, she's from the Vanenheim realm. Okay, which is completely different to the tribe of giants. Anyway, Odin and Frigg got it on quite a bit. Okay, and had 1, 2, 3, 4 children. Their oldest child was Thor. Okay, they then had Balder. Okay, they then had Vidar. Okay, and then they had Vali, their youngest son. Okay, Vali. Okay, and this is the family tree line that we concern ourselves mostly with during any period or any story that we tell during Nordic mythology, because it was during the reign of this particular royal family line here of Aesir gods that essentially we see the rule of Asgard. It's after this where we start to see other gods appearing, but potentially interacting then with Ragnarok, but having a lesser role before Ragnarok itself actually sort of kicks in. So then what we'll do is then we'll take Thor, because everyone's interested in Thor. Thor was married to a female called Sif, okay, and they had 2 children, 2 legitimate children called Trud and Modi. Okay, Trud and Modi. Okay, so we can see how Buri was the father of Bor, the grandfather of Odin, the great-grandfather of Thor. So Thor is 4th generation god, and his children here are 5th generation of god, of Aesir god, that is. And you can see with a giant over here, I'll actually write this here, Vanir, okay, with an influence of Vanir blood here, we see that their bloodlines are starting to be watered down, and the Aesir tribe, certainly through Odin at least anyway, is becoming lesser and lesser and lesser. Not that that's a bad thing. It's the same thing that happens sometimes with humans also. But we see how the bloodline is thinning out. Okay, there is one extra thing to mention. Well, two extra things to mention. They actually had a stepson called Ula also. Okay, so Sif already had a son called Ula when Thor married Sif, and he took Ula on as his stepson. And on top of that, Thor had one illegitimate son to a character called John Saxa. Okay, John Saxa, and those two, Thor and John Saxa, had a son called Magni. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to say and show with this is there is an extensive amount of gods just looking at that particular family tree there, and this family tree is essentially the family tree of Thor. Ultimately is what we're looking at. A family tree of Thor. How do we get to Thor, and who were the children of Thor? Okay, and Thor and Odin essentially. And you can already see there's a great mention of gods all over the place. Okay, most of them you probably have never heard of. Most of them you've not heard of for good reason, because they haven't been included in any of the sagas or in any of the Eddas, or the information on them have been lost. And so this video really is just something to show you out of interest for those of you who like this kind of thing, but also it's also my way of trying to put on paper that even though I do want to try and cover every single god in as much detail as possible, there are going to be some videos where some gods are put together simply to make up the time, and sometimes there's just going to be no video on the god at all. It's not that I don't know about the god. It's not that I'm not trying to show the god respect, or that I'm ignorant to the god's existence. It's just simply I don't know what to say about them. I mean, it really upsets me that I can't talk about Buri, other than the fact that he was the first of the Aesir tribe. Bor, that he was the son of Buri, and we don't know who his mother was, and that adds a little bit of interest there. Other than that, I have really and he was the first of the Aesir bloodline to marry a giant. So really, I have no. It's a real shame that I can't expand upon this on some of these gods in greater detail, but I feel that by doing things similar to this, I'll at least be able to share information about those gods, or show you where they are certainly placed within the hierarchy of gods to you over time. If you guys have any further ideas, please share in the comments. Be more than happy to modify this in certain ways to make it better. I know one way would be actually to put this out on like a Word document or a spreadsheet. That's not going to happen simply because I don't have the time. It's simply going to be me drawing it out for you, but maybe you would prefer me to pre-draw it and not draw it as I do the video. I'm not sure, or whether there is a better way of or more information that you feel that I can get and share with you. I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. If there's anything else that I can do to make these videos better for you to learn from, then please put it in the comments below. Lovely guys, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you later.